Here.
This will be an exploration, and you may take it any way you want. Let's try it. All right. Did you pick up that from the mic? Yeah. Good. Jump in.
I don't really know this is, well, okay, this is really practical, okay?
Yes.
All right, I started a company. I am a census shepherd.
All right.
I am shepherding retirement monies, for people who are retired. I currently manage about $5 million. Goal is to get it up to like 100 million. And I'm doing lots of different marketing methods. I've got professional speakers putting on seminars for me. I have one problem. I currently work a full-time job. Okay. So in a sense, I'm working 2 jobs at once. In the money management job, the people who do the back office for me are RWB National Fund Advisors. 2 Nobel Prize guys there, and they've created these funds, and what they do is they figure out for a certain amount of risk and reward, a certain amount of time, what the allocation is. So I'm doing the upfront marketing with individuals, and they put the portfolios together. So my goal is to, probably put on about 2 seminars a month. Keep working until I get to that certain goal level. And then I guess I'll quit my job. And I'll have enough money coming in that I don't have to work like a fool, work all the time. So this is about as far from spirituality as you can get. No. Oh, here we go. Here's the problem.
Go ahead.
On the other hand, something tells me that I should just go off and sit on a mountain and just sit all the time. And really put all my time into that, because that's what's most important. And so I'll start doing something like that, not exactly sitting on the mountain, but I'll start, getting involved with more of my inner world. But then all of a sudden, later on, I'll flip back to my job and my financial goals. And this has been going on now probably for since 1975. I started this company about 2 years ago. So, but I've been continually flipping back and forth between the working world and my own private, my own development world, inner development world.
What kinds of difficulties would you say you have encountered so far in the last 2 months? Been on it 2 years now, is that right? Right.
My energy doesn't seem, I don't have enough energy. I'm running out of energy.
How do you see that? Come on.
I'm losing my enthusiasm. I'm getting some results over in my mountain sitting mode. I'm seeing some things. How do I put it?
When did you experience this? The last time?
Last time. I have a client, new client.
Okay, go ahead.
His money was invested. 3 weeks ago. I left him a phone message that everything had been taken care of, but I really should have been calling him back a couple times to really hold his hand. I haven't done it. So there's some sort of block going on here.
No, say it again. You really should have what?
I should have called him and take a little bit more active,
Taken his hand.
taking his hand, I went through all the pre-work to educate him, to convince him this is the thing he should do, and I've sort of broken with him a little bit. I don't know if that's good or bad. Something tells me I should be talking to him a lot more, making sure he's okay with everything, because it is something new for him.
So you're educating him?
Yeah.
Fine. And what do you find?
What do I find?
Yes, how do you find it, educating him, doing it for 3 weeks,
I spent about 4 months educating him.
4 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe he trusts me.
Pardon me. Now, I like that term you used. What is it like when you're in a relationship and you have to take someone's hand through it or whatever it is? What's that like?
It's difficult. I have to restrain myself.
Go ahead, what's that like? Come on, I have to restrain myself.
Well, I almost started babbling along. So I could really get this guy into investment theory and all these bells and whistles and really take him down the road. But again, there's a difference between talking theory and selling something. And so what I've done is I've restrained myself. I ask him a lot of questions, let him do as much of the talking as possible.
Go ahead.
And force myself to really listen to what he's saying.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, there it is.
And try and guide him to a couple of really key conclusions.
Right, guiding. Yeah, in what way?
I understand what I'm trying to get him to understand. I like to want to see the light go on.
Kind of waiting for the light to go on. Yeah. What's that like, waiting for the light to go on? There you are, talking with him.
But it's been bothersome with him. Because I don't think the light is going on for this guy.
What?
I
don't think.
I don't think the light is going on. I mean, I don't think,
Yeah. May not go on.
but he trusts me.
Oh, yeah. That's very curious. How would you describe that when you recognize that someone trusts you? Talk about that. What's that like? When that enters into the relationship, what's that like?
Well, not very many people in my life have trusted me.
Yeah. And therefore, what's this experience like?
It's sort of mind-boggling.
I can't spell it, mind-boggling.
It's new for me.
What?
It's new.
It's new. New. God, I'm still not getting what it's like, but I'm getting closer.
Well, here's what, I know what's going on here. It's causing me to question whether or not he should be trusting me.
Ah.
Oh, I know what it is. Also, I'm feeling guilty.
Yeah.
I'm feeling guilty.
Yeah. I'm not sure I know what that word means, by the way, so you may have to help me.
Well, here, I'll give you a real elaborate version of guilt.
Go ahead.
2 guys win the Nobel Prize in how to asset allocate your money, how to put together mutual funds in a certain proportion, because if you put them in a certain proportion, you'll have a certain level of risk, which we can figure out from the past, and you'll get a certain rate of return within a certain little range. Give me a break. Who can predict the future?
Well, give me a break.
Give me a break. Who can predict the future? I mean, I have a fundamental, although I'm selling this stuff, and I do believe it, but I believe what these guys have told me. I've looked through it. It's very elaborate. It appeals to the types of people I work with because they're very algorithmic. They like to see relationships and causality, and I fear that maybe.
And I fear that maybe.
This guy has trusted me, and things might go wrong.
Yeah.
But it might be good. It might be good.
Oh, yes. Might be good. Yeah.
So my guilt is based on have I oversold this guy? Well, I haven't oversold this guy because he just believes everything I tell him.
I haven't oversold him. He believes everything I tell him. I haven't oversold him, but he believes everything I tell him. Okay. Is there? I believe the guys who told me he believes everything I tell him. Huh?
So the question is, am I truthful with this guy?
Well, you are truthful because
I am
telling him what you were told.
I'm telling him what I was told,
Yeah.
and it's the best that's around.
Yeah.
Nobody's figured it out better than these guys. Not to say that they have the truth, but they might be getting close to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I shouldn't really be feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm. So,
in risk, there is no guarantee.
yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. But if something happens to that word in this discussion, there's something that happens to that word risk in this discussion. Right? Like it's minimized, and a lot of language goes into minimizing this problem, the risk. But you went back to the idea, but give me a break, who can predict the future?
Right.
Right. So, I got a question for you. I just wondered about this. Your goal in this relationship with him is to guide him, shepherd, but also educate, isn't it not? Educating? You're educating him?
Actually, I'm educating him. I've given him books to read.
Yeah, books to read.
And being more general, I've also, with the people I work, I've sort of shepherded them through danger. For example, I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on in the financial industry in the world. Actually, the last 3 or 4 months, there was some quite scary times.
Mm-hmm.
People's funds were down about 20%.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I had convinced them they have to be long-term investors, not short-term types of in and out, and they all held course, and things have come around. Things just as likely could have just gone to hell in a handbasket.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So, I'd ask you again, it's interesting that you're putting, let's say, there's a role you're playing that let's call it the educator role. Right. You give the guy books, you bring him into the knowledge game, right? Spend a lot of effort. Yeah. Oh, by the way, how would you describe him? As a good learner, or would you say he tends to believe whatever you say?
Actually, he's rushed.
What?
He's very busy.
Yeah, I expected that.
I think he understands what I tell him.
You think he understands, but is he a good student?
No.
No. Give me a grade.
He flunks.
He flunks.
I gave him 2 of the best books.
Oh.
The bottom line, thousands of books you could read.
Oh.
These are the 2 best books. All you have to do is sit down for a couple hours and read the damn things, and this guy can understand it. So instead, he's got my distilled version of it. Maybe that's good enough. It is good enough for him.
Yeah, and he fundamentally believes you.
What's that?
He fundamentally believes you.
Yeah, believes me.
Yeah. Now, if you were to look at this relationship you have then, how much time would you say you're playing not the shepherd, but the educator in this relationship?
So far, it was about 90%.
Yeah.
Educator.
And F is the grade you're getting for that.
Well, he gets an F because he didn't read the books. But if you take away, okay, he's got the books. Maybe he'll read them sometime. But we did have a tremendous amount of dialogue, 4 months worth, hours maybe, maybe 60 hours worth. So, we talked about his farm.
That would help them understand the market. No.
No, that's a sales trick.
No.
It's a sales trick. People do business with people who are like them.
Yeah.
So when he talked his farm, since I have a little bit of a farm background, man, we talked farm for hours.
Yeah.
So he likes me.
Would you say that's educating him in this market game?
No.
No. Yeah.
That's getting him to feel comfortable with me.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
You should read the books.
Yeah. You see, the thing that we're going to be looking at is you see yourself in one sense as an educator, and at the same time you're building up a relationship that could be the shepherding, trust, following, right? If you realize that the student you have is really much like a lamb, a sheep, right? How much education do you want to give the lambs?
I was just thinking differently. I was saying, gee, Jim, why the hell aren't you talking to this guy more? There's a sheep walking around out there. Who knows what's going through his mind?
That's right.
There's a difference between talking about something, but then when you take your life savings and you commit it,
Yeah.
it's a different game. But if you're a dumb sheep,
Yeah.
is it going to really matter?
Yeah.
Maybe not. He made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't base it on what I thought he should base it on. But so should I suffer now?
See,
Not if he's a sheep.
you see, you're in this relationship, see, and what we're looking at is how the energy, psychic energy, as it were, or we could say the rather than use psychic energy, the kind of involvement that you're involved in here, you now want to look at it and say to yourself, how effective each of the different roles you're playing in this.
Something just came up here. Actually, I just realized that I have my full-time job, which has been very hectic the last 3 months. Plus, I'm in a hectic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, there's a couple of other relationships that are intersecting in there, which helped to put me to, I should have, would have, could. I should have been more talking to that guy, but I'm being sapped in some other direction. So why am I not doing it? This is the cop-out here, you know, energy's going elsewhere.
See,
I don't have time to do it, I should do it, but
now you're saying, hey, by the way, I'm involved in other relationships where something similar is going on. Is that correct?
something similar. Well, actually, I'm a shepherd at work too.
Yeah. Yeah. How about in the relationship?
No, she's got a bull around.
Oh, she's the shepherd, you're the lamb.
She's kicking my ass.
Can we use that image though?
Yeah, it's a reverse image.
It's reverse, yeah. And with the company? That's your shepherding at the company.
Well, we have a goal we're going to, and I have some people with me who I'm sort of the leader, and they're all doing their piece of the task. So.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. With them, I'm on the phone with them every single day. There's about 9 of those guys. Now, I talk to them every day, but I'm not teaching them anything. They know.
You're doing this job with minimal teaching.
With minimal teaching. Hit them up, move them out, you know, on time, on budget.
Yeah. So that's really interesting then that when you're in this, you have to restrain yourself in a number of ways, right? You have to ask questions, have to hold yourself back from talking, right? Have to force yourself to listen, right? And you're guiding, and at the same time, you're trying to, through this, you're trying to establish a relationship. Okay. Now, if you were to do that in the relationship, I presume, with a woman, right? What would happen in that relationship?
I missed it.
No. Whatever you're doing here on this new venture, the way you are relating with your new clients, right? I have to restrain myself, I have to back from talking, I have to force myself to listen to what is being said, right? I have to go along, right? I have to build the confidence of the other person. What's going on in your relationship?
Well, she claims I don't listen to her, but I listen all the time. And the problem is she, I guess this is, I have to listen to a whole lot to get a nugget.
You have to listen to a whole lot, right?
A whole lot.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then she needs, I got to listen to all this stuff. And,
Yeah. By the way, in this kind of relationship, though, would you, if you have to listen a lot, in order to gain the relationship, or to have the relationship, or to endure the relationship, or?
Well, there's a lot of questions going on.
Yeah, okay. Same question for the company now. Same question. We're going to go up and down between the three.
Me listen?
No, right, that's right. Me, listen, I'm on the phone with these 9 guys every day.
I tell them what has to be done. I do listen, because there are sometimes.
That's true, but.
But basically I'm a driver,
You're a driver here,
Driver,
right.
It's my plan and it's my direction.
Yeah. So, in this sense, you're the driver, in that sense, forcefully, if we could use the term, forcefully a shepherd.
Yeah, these guys are not sheep.
And they're not sheep. No, and they're not dumb.
They're not dumb at all.
And they want to understand what they're doing.
Yeah,
and you have to, therefore, this is higher level of educating, isn't it? A certain level of conversation and content.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really a driver. I guess I am a sort of a shepherd. I mean, I'm not just telling people what to do. I mean, we all work on this together. But, the thing is, I've got to be the head guy, because if I don't, somebody else is sort of like,
will slip in.
Will slip it to me, or.
Yeah. Now, that's interesting now. Now we go back to where we were, right? I understand you're losing some enthusiasm.
Well, it's energy.
Energy, call it energy, losing enthusiasm, right. And the example you took was where you're taking his hand, as it were, and that puts you into this kind of relationship, doesn't it? We asked you about what's it like being in that kind of relationship. In the same way, we could say, being a driver in the company, that's a relationship, and that puts you in a certain state of mind while you're in it and doing it.
Well, here we go again. See, if you're a driver, see, people who are driving and managing and getting the work done are totally different than the people who are in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Right now, here I am. I'm doing both sides of the coin, only different
Good.
places.
Good. Good. Oh.
So see, actually, there's no way that I can play the game I play at work with these people who are.
That's right.
It's a totally different game.
Because they're different kinds of people.
Right.
Right?
It's a different.
They want a trusting relationship,
Trust.
right? A believing relationship, right? Is it possible, though, that you may be trying to relate to them in the way in which you're doing it at work? Trying to play the educator as well?
I missed that. Playing the educator at work.
At work, you're both sides of the coin, right? That makes sense, right? They're not sheep or lambs, as you said, right? They're active, they're participating. That's a different type of person than the person that you're dealing with in this company that you've started, right? They want a different kind of relation. They want to be in a trusting. They want to trust you, don't they?
Yeah, they want to have more communication with me, more touchy-feely,
Yeah.
more, I'm an okay guy.
Yeah. Reassurance.
Reassurance.
Right. That's it.
They also want to know that we're doing the right thing.
And they want to be reassured. Right. Especially in a fluctuating market. Right. Yeah. Different.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I could, well, the people I work with at work, they're reassured because they know they're doing the right things. I delegate stuff.
That's right.
So they do their own, they do it. They
There's
their
no
own time.
There's no doubt about reassurance here and what has to be in place to gain
We've
it.
got metrics.
Right.
We've got ways of gauging things.
Yeah,
So-
sure. Yeah. But not here. This takes a reassurance game when you're dealing with this work
We're
relationship
dealing with
with the
unknown.
company.
We're dealing with the unknown, sort of.
Yeah.
See, we've put together a portfolio, we've sort of launched it into financial space, and it's gonna sort of orbit around, and it's gonna kick off this return at some fairly reasonable rate over time. But you can't really control that, and
Like you can here
oh yeah,
at the company.
we know what we're
Different. You know where you're going.
Yeah, we know how to get there.
Yeah. So you're in a different psychological, psychic world, aren't you? Now, therefore, what is it like having to spend your time reassuring these people? Now, you could say, I look forward to it, I'm calling them all the time, or I find I'm not calling them as much as I should. I should be on the phone call,
I should talk to them more.
but
I
I'm
haven't.
not.
I'm not.
Well, what is it, therefore, when you think about calling them right now and doing this reassurance part? Oh. Go ahead. It's like what? Try that now. Doing that, or even thinking about it right now, is like what? What's it like?
Actually, when I call them up, and we start talking, it's no big deal.
No big deal.
No, everything's okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's only when you have to pick
thinking about
it up, pick up the phone. Think about it and picking it up, right? Therefore, what's it like when you think about it before you pick up the phone? See, what's it like?
You know, it's really not a think about thing.
Okay.
No, I'm actually going to sleep. I want to call them, but I get caught up in this other job and my relationship. And it's sort of like all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I didn't do my other work. It's sort of, does that make sense?
Oh, yes. We always can do things.
And I haven't called Jim Herbaugh. Now, I should have really been calling him a couple times. And I haven't done it, so now I'm really feeling guilty, so I'm not calling him.
In other words, when it comes time to do this, you find you have time to do these other things.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes. That's always true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, going back, as you think about calling this chap up, right? Reaching for the phone. What's it like? Like right now. Here's the phone.
If I was going to call him up, I'd say, hi, how you doing? And I wouldn't say a word because I feel guilty that I haven't called him, so I don't want to start apologizing.
I wouldn't say a word. Go ahead.
How's it going? I'd say, hi Jim, how you doing? Jim Lundy here, blah, 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 blah. Let's see, everything's been set up. Your paperwork should have been sent to you. I'm not sure his paperwork's been sent to him, so I should find that out.
So then, as you think about it, actually, I wouldn't say a word right at first, but you're going to have to apologize.
No.
Is that what you said?
No.
He
hasn't called me. He's got my phone number.
Oh, yeah.
He's not worried. He might be
But you're not worried about him. You're worried about you.
Oh, okay.
Right? As you reach for that phone, right? The reason you're not picking it up, what state of mind are you in?
It's not the right time to call.
Good. Yeah, good. I like that. More. It's not the right time.
Actually, I was supposed to do it today. I was supposed to call him today. I was going to call him today, but I didn't. I got wrapped around the axle at work.
Now look here. What do you say is the name for this kind of behavior in your own life, right?
Procrastination.
Yeah, it's not the right time. I'm supposed to do it. What's the history of that state of mind in your own home? Back when? Yeah, in your family. See, now we're after the history of it.
My father does all kinds of stuff.
What?
More than he can handle.
More. Come on, talk about it.
He called it being a Renaissance man. You take all your interests and then you really go out and do them all. So being able to juggle n balls at once.
That was him.
Yeah.
And, go ahead. And where did he get this, it's not the right time business? When would he say that?
It's not the right. Well, actually, when I would try and talk to him sometimes.
Yeah, right. So when you're trying to talk to him, gain a relationship with him, go ahead.
He's busy working on other things.
It's not the right time.
Right time.
And this happens again and again and again. Yeah. Curious, isn't it? I mean, it's a curious thing. Do you have a particular scene that you can recall?
Yeah, I'm building.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm building a motor.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
It's a triple armature motor run by batteries. It's supposed to spin. I'm winding the armatures, and I put it in the support, flip the switch, and it don't work. Jesus Christ. So now I take the thing apart, I rewire the thing, don't work. Now I'm really worried because I can't get it to work. So I sit up there for how long? Oh Christ, I gotta go show him that the motor don't work, So I took it apart again, put it back together. And I'm in really bad shape now. So I went down and I talked to him, and said it didn't work. And he didn't have time to fix it at that time, so he didn't work on it. So it took a while, and he actually took it and rewound it for me and showed me how to make it work.
Mhm. Mhm. What do you think of that, now that you reflect on it? How long did you have to wait?
I think it was a couple of days.
Oh, right, right. And you were in bad shape during that time,
Well,
right? Worrying?
You don't screw up with my father. I mean, you don't, I mean, I was amazed that he didn't get pissed off,
Ah.
because, I had all these things I would do, and I never could get them right, but he would always fix them.
Oh, you never get them right.
That's true, and he
Yeah.
never had time to fix them until later.
Could that possibly be a way of relating with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, not needing help? Or,
Well, I guess I probably went through enough things with him that I realized that after a while, when I talked to him, it'd be a little bit later when we worked on stuff. And to be quite frank with you now, I realize now most of my people I work with in this little company I've started, well, look here, most of the times I'm with my father trying to get these projects to work, they don't work because I didn't have the ability to get them to work, really.
yeah,
He showed me how to make them work.
yeah.
So I guess these portfolios I've set up for people, in some sense, my guilt tells me they're broken.
Mm-hmm.
So are they my father now? Or I mean, I'm I'm playing the same game with them that I played with my father. I will eventually call him up and there won't be any problem. I mean, I've trained this guy that he's long term. He doesn't think in terms of weeks. He thinks in terms of months.
Mm-hmm.
And here it fits right into my, work on it, get it all set up. It doesn't work. Actually, the stuff does work, but it's not 100% guaranteed that it works.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, I got to go talk to this guy again, and we got to work it out again. I'm playing the same game.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
playing the same game with him.
Yeah, right. Curious, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's really great because I've got a situation here where there's no way in Jeeves or whatever that I can guarantee that this thing is going to work. And
That's right.
And I was,
Yeah. Go ahead. That's like,
so it'll be just like working with my father. I know I can't do it. I'm going to try, but I can't do it. So.
and not only that, the project you're working on, there's no certainty that the future will be calculable, predictable.
Right. That's right. So I'm hooked.
Yeah.
This plays right into it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to, though.
That's true.
Right. Because it appears you are making a connection here that you are both intelligent enough to see that it's through work and projects that you two relate.
It's through working. Oh, my father?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the vehicle
Oh,
through
yeah.
which you relate. Yeah. Yeah.
All my clients are men. So, well, actually, except for one woman.
Yeah.
But I did the same thing to her.
Uh-huh.
Played the same thing with her. So
Yeah.
it's not gender specific.
Yeah. Right.
So now what I need to do is just make sure that as soon as I set things up, that I immediately get in contact with the person almost as soon as things are set up and just. Well, I'm in the loop here.
So what is the point? What is it you had to accept to have this relationship with your father? What is it you had to accept?
Well, that I couldn't do it.
1, 2,
2, he would fix it.
3,
Everything's okay?
no, 3.
3. I can't reach it right.
It's not the right time.
Oh, that's right. It's not the right time. That's right.
Therefore, you would continuously have to
Wait,
be on hold.
be on hold till you had time.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
But it couldn't be that you're getting your clients to be on hold, could it?
oh yeah.
Oh,
Now here's a little extra thing here. My father had these projects he would work on, and they were like life projects. See, they didn't exactly get done either. No, yeah.
so would you be willing to say, though, that, just think about this. When did he finally have time? Can you just remember one scene? Because I have a question about it. I'd rather you first tell me before I ask my question. With this aperture.
Oh yeah, I got a scene, yeah. Sort of, yeah, I had this model. He gave me this model. It was a model of a medieval knight. He had a staff, a horse, and all this stuff. I had this little tiny brush with all these paints, and I was supposed to paint all these little fine striations and stuff. So I painted them. But not being able to paint them right, I got them smudged. Okay.
And your involvement with your father?
Well, I knew I'd have to go to him to show him I'd screwed it up.
And what did he do?
He didn't have time.
He didn't have time to work on that
He
one.
was working on something else.
That's why it was interesting in the time when he did have time. Go ahead.
When he looked at it, and
Like the example with the winding the armature. When he finally did it, do you remember that time?
oh,
Yeah, yeah. What was he doing just before he did it? Because he did he did delay it. He had to postpone it.
actually, he was working on some things that were similar.
He was working on something and stopped to do it.
Well, this model was part of his project. So he was working on this project, so naturally he had time to do the model. He was sitting at the table right then, and he's...
It was natural for him at that time to take the time because he was doing something similar or the same project. Right. See, I want to see when he finally takes the time to help you. I've got one scene now. It looks like he has time when it fits what he's already doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have another one?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Same question.
Yeah, the lawnmower was, was not working right.
Oh, good. How
So
did
he told me
you?
to fix it.
Oh, yeah, good, good.
So I took the motor apart
And
and put it back together.
and it didn't work.
It'll work worse.
Right. Go ahead.
So I told him at dinner that the lawnmower, I was having problems with the lawnmower, and he asked me what I did, and I told him a few things. And he said, well, I ain't got time right now, but try this.
Good.
So I went out and tried something, and it didn't work.
Good. I like this story.
So
Go
the
ahead.
next night, I told him again, and he says, well, gee, he says, I haven't got time to work on that now.
Yeah.
And I do remember now, he did come out and we did some yard stuff.
And that's when he did
And
it.
that's when he put fixed the motor.
Can you tell me from these two scenes whether you have a theory about when he finds time to do things with you?
He finds time when it's the right time,
And the right time for him is
his time.
when he's already doing something similar to it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. I'm not sure what that means. What does that mean?
What do you mean, what does it mean?
Well, I just want to know what it means. Look, let me give you another, take the same case. Suppose you find out that when he says, I don't have the time right now, the next time you see that he's totally involved in something totally different, you come up to him, he puts his stuff aside and works on yours.
Oh, no.
Right? We would come to a
Oh,
certain,
no, that doesn't happen.
we would come to a certain conclusion, wouldn't we?
Yes.
And your importance,
Yes.
and the way in relating with you, and under what
Well, you
conditions.
gotta realize, I was a cog in the family. I sit up, I stand up, I speak up, and I sit down.
Yeah.
That was the family I grew up in.
Go ahead, and that means?
You do what you're told.
Ah. Which is to fit into what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, I just wondered.
He was my father.
Of course.
Until I was like 16, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then, it looks like we have a way of spotting when it's likely he'll do these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, when is it likely that you'll call this person, people like this?
When I get time.
And what will that mean?
Well, I'm not fighting with my girlfriend. I'm not involved in wrapped around the axle at work. When I devote my time to my business.
Oh, then when you're doing your business, you'll do this.
Yes.
But you won't. Is that similar, by the way?
Oh, absolutely.
Then it looks like we have another function. Shepherd, educator, and parent.
Parent? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A certain kind of parent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of interesting. See, it's always important then.
Well, you know, I'm really glad you got me through this because I realize I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Go ahead.
I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I'm in a business and I should be definitely taking time for these people. Even though the guy's not asking me to call him on the phone, I should be calling him on the phone and making sure that everything's okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, my father never did that. He always give me some task, and I'm going to be wrapped around.
Like when you gave the guy the books to read.
Yeah.
Isn't that curious? Yeah.
Get back to me later. Let me know what you're.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Is that curious, isn't it? Yeah.
And in my business to go to the next level, I'll be working with more people.
And unless you solve this problem,
This can't play. I know
they can't play this game.
No.
Right? Not with, if you go to 5 to 100. Right? So you see why it's absolutely important. And it's costing you draining energy from this. Right? Yeah, it's the energy draining. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Well, actually, there's another thing too. My father was a very busy person. He was involved in a lot of different things. And what he was doing was he'd do this thing, and he'd shift gears. He'd go do that thing, they'd shift gears, you know, and I'm doing the same thing. You know, I go to work, and I get in that mode, you know, and then I go work my business, get in that mode, and then I'm late with my girlfriend.
Shift gears.
Shift gears for her, you know. So, you know, I'm running her as a business too. And I think, well, yeah.
Well, do you know what you should do? Now, this is when I can give advice. That's my major role.
Oh, you don't think you've been giving advice on?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is the big advice, right?
Big, yeah, this is the part that have to wait until I build up a certain degree of trust with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you've done a pretty good job.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. You just take a look at what's going on, that's all. You want to see the effect our discussion has on these three different worlds, so that you can simply see it more precisely.
So just watch it then.
Just watch the
Just watch
sucker, which you'll be doing anyhow.
Oh, I definitely.
And therefore my advice is very good, since I know you're already doing it, but you're going to be doing it in a different way, because you're going to do it in view of this. Right? You're going to do it in view of this. Right. How about some questions on this?
I wanted to ask you, have you known this guy that you're shepherding for very long, the gentleman that you're...
Yeah, first names only, just for,
Yeah,
Jim Herbaugh, yes, he knows me for about a couple of years.
okay,
do you
good.
consider him a friend, or how do you consider, I mean, what are your feelings towards him? Is it strictly business, or do you have personal?
It's strictly business. I'm working for him now, and he worked at the same company I worked at. So I had a little bit of reputation at the company. I've worked with some other people there.
Mhm.
You know, he'd heard a few things, and then he was getting ready to retire.
Mhm.
Actually, to tell you the truth, I was talking with two other guys in that group because they were getting ready to retire, and they sort of went off and did some other things, whereas he just popped out of nowhere and said, well, talk to me, so
Mhm.
he wasn't the guy I thought I'd be working for.
Mhm.
No, I'm not clear. This is the guy that you're going to be selling stuff to?
No, I already work for him.
So you work for this guy?
Yes,
Mhm.
he had a 401k and a lump sum distribution from the company. He's taken a lump sum, which was about $500,000, and we've got to put it into a diversified portfolio.
Mhm.
Has a little bit of, it has growth, value, large and small cap, and U.S. and international. It's pretty well diversified. His eggs are all in these different baskets.
Mhm.
And actually, it worked out pretty good because a fellow before had a similar portfolio, and during the downturn we had the last couple of months, most things were down like 23%. His portfolio was down something like 15. So there was an attenuation factor there.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, the point you were moving
just,
forward to?
Well, a couple of things. One was I was curious how you felt about his willingness to trust you without really doing the homework that you felt he should do on his own. And that was one point. And what's the other point? I can't remember.
Well, I was feeling a little bit guilty. I grew up in the South, and people in the South, they can tell stories, and people just believe them.
Sure.
And I do have some of that capability.
Mhm.
I can be very, very assuring about certain things which I might not be sure of myself, and people will believe me.
Sure.
So do you think there's something else that you should be telling him, or you think there's things that you're not telling him? Do you think you're being direct with him?
Well, here's the thing. I could go into more of the, risk aspects and give him a really, thorough grounding in risk. But if I do that, I might scare him out of the sale. And he hasn't really shown me that he's willing to read these books. I've had other guys take the book and read it and underline everything and ask me 10,000 questions, which that's another story. Those guys, sometimes they ask too much.
Sure.
This guy didn't ask enough.
Sure.
So, again, my bottom line is to actually get assets under management, which I feel I do feel this is these guys have got a really good perception and a methodology they use to control risk.
As much as it can be.
As much as it can be, but again, I'm saying, gee, I can't be 100%. And beating myself up on it. Well,
See whether you can push the implications of that, okay? One more step. It's always implications, you see, in this game.
Help me out.
Okay.
Please.
What's the last thing that was said? Some of the people underlined the book, and they even asked more questions, and he laughed at that moment, right? And we both understood what was going on, which is he was really being a good educator in that sense.
Okay.
And he may be asking more questions than perhaps in terms of the particular financial goal and the position that he's in. He may educate him with it to move him from an F to an A, and therefore move out
At the cost of the...
move out and go for some other plan with some other person.
that's the problem with sales. You can
Yeah.
actually educate yourself out of sales.
Out of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody might come along with just a big smile, knows nothing,
Yeah.
and hit an emotional chord, and he's got
That's right.
business.
Yeah, okay.
So it's...
Good. Any questions for probing this further? Good. Good. Fun? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Exploration? And it would be real good now to watch dreams. Given this dynamic now, see, now watch for dreams.
One question, it would strike me in this picture that something that seems rather significant that I could relate to is perhaps there's something very powerful about the idea that you relate to a father when you do have a problem, and that's the closest time, that's the times when you're the most intimate with your father ever.
That's right.
And you carry that on into your life.
That's right.
If things are peaceful, I'm not okay. If things are calm,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
The guy hadn't called me, well, he called me once, and I left him a voicemail, but he hadn't called back since then.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. He may wonder why you're trying to reassure him.
Possible.
Right? It may not fit where he's at.
I do have to meet with him every 3 months,
Well, that's different.
so I could
Yeah.
procrastinate this
Yeah.
for 2 more months, but I don't want to do that.
But you're quite right. You see, that it would be interesting for you to have a talk with your father, if it were possible, right? But in principle, to say, Dad, you know what I learned from these great moments when we were building together? It became the basis of a model that I'm using in a variety of ways. It may even become a model for love, affection, recognition, knowledge. It may become the dominant model in my thinking. He'd be surprised at that. He'd say, I thought I was just rewinding the armature. Because we don't see the value of it. No. The peaceful, quiet scenes, right? They aren't the basis for our models. These are.
yeah, just for me, the revelation that I got was really perhaps the greatest intimacy I ever had with both my mother and father were the times when I pushed the void and sort of fell apart, and they were forced to actually confront something that was true about my inner world, but it had to usually be something rather dramatic
That's right.
to get that happening.
That's right.
And how much deep in my psyche I loved that they were caring about something that
That's
I
right.
felt for that moment, even though it was shameful or something to that.
We have to discover that we're significant, that someone cares, that there's some sign of affection and recognition, self-worth, all of the greatest things in the universe.
It's so painful to believe the opposite.
Yeah, so we look around for things that will reassure us of those things, and that becomes the model. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you.